Welcome back to South Africa now, where the country is remembering one of the darkest days in its history. It's been 40 years since the Soweto Uprisings, which began when apartheid police opened fire on thousands of black students. They were marching against being taught in Afrikaans. The massacre inspired millions of South Africans to fight against the repressive apartheid government there. CCTV's Sias Plessis now has more from Soweto.
Soweto is a hive of activity on this significant day in South Africa's history. Various events are planned across the famous township, with a wreath-laying ceremony having just taken place at the Hector Peterson Memorial. The Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, was there to pay his respects. Behind me at the Orlando Stadium, the President of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, will address 35,000 people. But there are mixed emotions around today, with many feeling it should be a somber occasion of reflection, as we look back at what happened 40 years ago on this day with the school children and youths that paid the ultimate price for standing up against what they thought was unjust. Sias du Plessis, CCTV, Soweto.
Well, 40 years on, and those involved in the uprising still vividly remember that day. CCTV's Yolisa Njamela has the story.
Barney Mokgatle was at the forefront of the Soweto Uprisings. Back in 1976, he was a member of the Student Representative Council at this high school. Mokgatle was one of thousands who took to the streets in protest against being taught in the Afrikaans language.
Afrikaans was a language of the oppressor. Afrikaans had a negative impact in us because each time the police came to your door, when they knocked the door, it was always in Afrikaans. When you are stopped in the street, it was always in Afrikaans. When they come looking for your brother or your mother or your father, always in Afrikaans.
4 decades later, Mokgatle still remembers June the 16th vividly. He says the march started off peacefully, but it wasn't long before things turned violent.
As we're walking down from this Vilakazi street, going further down, the policemen were following us. As they came to the school where we are, the march came to a halt. Now, as it came to a halt, we turned and faced the police. Now, when we face the police, now automatically we are the ones in front. Now, these guys did not communicate with us. They did not warn us. All what they did, they unleashed their dog. There were screams, there were bangs of bullets, and there were stone throwing.
Heavily armed police used live ammunition and tear gas to disperse the students, killing at least 22 of them and injuring hundreds more. Among the dead, 13-year-old Hector Peterson. This image of him being carried by a fellow pupil sent shockwaves around the world. In the days that followed, close to 200 people were killed.
Even our parents did not know about this thing. Only when they were at work, over the radio, they heard that there were shootings in Soweto. Then they asked to come back home from their employers. But when they came back, instead of the police talking to our parents who were coming off the buses and trains, they in turn started shooting at our parents who did not know anything.
Today, June the 16th is a nationwide public holiday, a time for South Africans to reflect on their country's history. We asked some of the younger generation what Youth Day means to them.
It's a constant reminder of what the student of 1976 and how they did a courageous act by fighting against Bantu education, which all subjects were taught in Afrikaans, and we now have the freedom to learn, and I don't think distinctions would be possible if we were to learn maths in Afrikaans or geography.
As a young person, it actually means a lot to me. And then it also brings into me the thought of also striving and fighting again. For we as the youth of South Africa intend to take things lightly about the history of 1976 and the Soweto Uprising.
They were fighting for us to get better education and to choose which subjects we want to do.
In the past, it was compulsory for them to study and learn Afrikaans. So, and as you can see that, and in these days we are getting free education, we're getting scholarships, we're getting bursaries and all that. So it did make a difference.
While the country has come a long way over the past 40 years, there are still struggles ahead. But South Africans, young and old, are in agreement. They never want to see a repeat of the scenes that played out in 1976. Many of those who participated in the Soweto Uprising say the best way to commemorate June 16, 1976 is to never forget and to ensure that it never happens. Yulisa Njamela, CCTV, Soweto.
For the first time in decades, 3 music legends are sharing the stage to commemorate the Soweto Uprising. Abdullah Ibrahim, Hugh Masekela, and Jonas Gwamgwa. They were once part of the Jazz Epistles, one of South Africa's most influential jazz bands. The band made its name for its music, its passion, and for providing the music to fire up resistance to apartheid.
There are many stories that we remember from those days, and how the music really encouraged the people. So this June 16th, this concert that we're playing here with the Jazz Epistles and my musicians from New York, for me it seems like not a remembrance of things that happened, but a point where something new is starting.
We grew up in rallies, we grew up in strikes, we grew up in boycotts, we grew up in massacres and arrests. So we're bound, I think, to all the celebrations and the tragedies that happened.
They're playing 2 nights this week at a venue in Johannesburg, a chance to relive past glories and to fire up the present.
The fact that we were able to come back, and we've been back 26 years, and we're able to do this again after 60 years. In the States, they call it gravy. You know, it's pure gravy.
It is very important, you know, we haven't seen each other for a long, long time, and haven't played together, actually. And, you know, we're thinking of the old days and everything, and we've all grown up. You know, this is almost like 60 years ago that we played together.
When we started Jazz Epistle in those years, we were adventurous, still are. And it's almost as if it is a journey that's continuing. So I cannot think of it as something that was past and something that is present. For us, it was a continuing journey.
After 40 years, the scars of the Soweto Uprising are still there. But for these men, that day was a big step along the road to freedom. Julie Shara, CCTV, Johannesburg, South Africa.